it's Liz Yuille from Old Stables Crafts. Thank you very much for joining me again today. If you don't know me, I am a Stampin' Up demonstrator based in the UK. So if you're in the UK and you need any Stampin' Up products, you can find my online store just by clicking the link in the description bar below or going over to my website and clicking the link there. The link to my blog post for this project will be in the description bar below. So I was asked if I could show how to make this little mini album. I showed this as one of my favourite items from the retiring annual catalogue. And actually this was spring summer, but from the retiring list. And the birthday bonanza was one of my favourite sweets, which surprised me. And this was one of the items I showed, and as I say, there's been a request to show you how to make it. It's quite an involved project, so fingers crossed my camera doesn't get too bored. I have changed the sweet, so I'm using Perennial Essence because I'm using Stuff Up, and I've got just enough Perennial Essence to do it. And I'm actually choosing to make it out of Blueberry Bushel. Blueberry Bushel is one of the many colours that appears in the suite, and as it's a retiring in colour, I thought it was a good reason to use it up. So this is the piece of card that you need for the box. So I'll do the box first, and then I will show you how I made the pages. So, whoops, sorry about that weird noise. That was me grabbing my Simply Scored. So this piece of card is taken from a 12 by 12 sheet, and I haven't cut it down properly. 5 3/4 is right, but I should have cut it down to 10 3/4. So let me grab my trimmer and we'll do a balancing act. So this needs to be 5 3/4 by 10 3/4. So let's line this up on 10 3/4. There we are. So you can get it out of either North American letter or International A4, although I have used 12 by 12 purely because it's the only Blueberry Bushel I had left. So with the long side at the top, so your 10 3/4 inches, you need to score at 3/4 of an inch, 5 inches, 5 3/4 inches, and 10 inches. And then with the short side at the top, you want to score at 3/4 of an inch and at 5 inches. So our box is basically 4 1/4 by 3/4. So 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 by 3/4. So it's 3/4 inches deep. So the first thing I always do with a box is having scored burnish, and you want to burnish all your score lines so you get a nice crisp finish. And you will need a piece of 12 by 12 cardstock as well. You could fudge it, but it's much easier with 12 by 12 when we come to doing the pages inside. Right, so it's a pizza box. So I've got pieces coming in from all directions. I'm going to have the sides straight and the ends going in. That will make sense in a moment. So I'm going to cut straight up here and straight up here. So I'm leaving my square with the score marks on, and I'm going to trim those down by wedging. And then at the ends, I want these to curl round. So I'm going to go straight into my rectangle and then wedge and wedge. So you're wedging your squares and you're leaving your rectangles in one piece. So again, I want to go straight And you're only cutting into the long side. You don't need to cut into the short sides at all. So just the long sides. So wedge. And I'm just going to be wedging first and then cutting straight because you can. So straight, wedge, wedge, straight, and straight, wedge, wedge. So that is the bases of a pizza box. Now I am going to use liquid adhesive. You could use tear and tape. We have a new adhesive coming out. Sorry, I've got a nasty bit on my, there we go. We have a new adhesive runner coming out that is similar to Fast Fuse, if you remember Fast Fuse, but we are told won't have the issues that Fast Fuse had with having to do that check mark at the end. But it will be a tape runner that we can use for construction. Hurrah! I'm very happy about that thought. So I'm going to make my box base first. So I'm bringing my cut edge up to my folded edge. And again, cut edge up to my folded edge. You do need to just hold it in place for a little while so that the adhesive gets a key. Oops. And the final one for the base is always the fiddly one because you have to pull it round the corner and hold that square. Now what I then like to do is just get my bone folder and actually press those down. I'm hoping that when we have our new adhesive we won't have to do all this pressing down bit. As I say, you can use tear and tape, that would work just as well, but I like my liquid adhesive. So one and the other, and then these just tuck in. And you can spread your glue out a bit by working it backwards and forwards, which does speed up the drying process. So just pop it on and then spread it and then hold it in place. And it also means you're going to get adhesive over more of the surface area of your card. And then again, just going to fold that back on itself a wee bit and come in with my bone folder and just press that in place. And that is the construction of the box done, and that will then close up. Now what I tend to do is push those bits in just so that they know that they're supposed to be going a bit flatter against the other bits of the box. But for the moment this is that all done. So I'm going to work on the inside pages. So this is a whole sheet of 12 by 12 and I've cut it at 4 inches and scored at 4 inches. Actually I scored and then cut it, scored and then cut it, scored and then cut. And I'm just going to concertina my folds and burnish them as I go. And I always fold towards the mountain, so I did one of my my scores with the card facing up and one with it facing down, so that I got these mountains and valleys. It doesn't matter, it gets a nicer fold, but it's really not the end of the world. And then all we're going to do is stick them together so that two of the pieces overlap, which is why I say you could fudge it. If you were using either letter or A4 cardstock, you could do 2 squares at 4 inches and then the short one, and then overlap a large square with a small square so that you do have your large square keeping your size. I hope that made sense. It may not have done. And just make sure everything keeps square. So what I ideally want, as this is over, I want this to then be over there. Otherwise we end up with a kind of funny look. But again, it's not vital. Just get them lined up and concertinaed. So pop that in there and push that in. And we then have our concertina part. So this is the innards of our box, if you like. And now we're going to do lots of layering. Now I have cut out one layer for the lid, but I'm doing the same number of layers for the inside. Nothing is going to go on the base. So what I would propose doing, if I can find it, is, there it is, I'm going to get my chalk marker and just do that. And just make sure that I know that I'm not sticking anything on that. The reason for that is I'm going to lose where I am otherwise. So I have got 13 pieces of, this happens to be Calypso Coral, cut at, let me make sure I get this right, 3 7/8 of an inch square. So these are all going to, I am actually going to need my adhesive. In fact, I'm going to do this slightly differently. I'm going to stick my DSP onto these before I stick them into my album. So I've got 13 pieces of that. I've got 13 pieces of designer series paper. One of them is a repeat, and I'll just make sure that I put that at the back, purely because there are only six designs and they're double-sided, so it was never going to work out completely right. And these I'm going to stick on with snail, and for speed I'm going to put my snail on my card, not onto my DSP, because I just find it quicker that way. Calypso Coral is one of the colours in the designer series paper. So, oops, I didn't actually remember which that was the double of. It doesn't matter. It's not the end of the world. So, what was I saying? Yes. Just remember to alternate your top and bottom pattern. You could, of course, make them all the same pattern. I used the fact that I was doing tops and bottoms to show off all of the designs. Now, obviously, if you're making this as a mini album, you're going to want to have designs that you can then either put journaling cards on or photographs, that sort of thing. But as the original, the Birthday Bonanza one of these, was partly to showcase the patterns of the paper, it really didn't bother me which pattern I was using. Perennial Essence is actually a good one to use because it is a wafty pattern. It's not a completely definite pattern. So you could put a photograph on here and not worry that you haven't got, you know, the whole of a teddy bear or something. So you do need to look at that and just think about which papers you would want to use. This is what I would call a solid. So I can use it as a solid. It doesn't matter if I put something on top of any of the patterns, because they really aren't going to be that fussy. So what I mean is, you know, if this was a photo and I stuck a photo on there, it doesn't matter. It's just splodges of colour. I don't need to worry that you can't see the whole of the pattern to know what it is. So if it was something very... in fact, I'll show you... Oops! No, that's the right one. So I'll show you what I mean by looking at this. So... Well, actually, I did use only the small patterns in this. But if I had used the large pattern with the large, you know, with the toucans and whatnot on, that would have looked odd if you'd put a photo on top, because you wouldn't have realized, you wouldn't have been able to work out, your brain wouldn't know what it was looking at. Does that make any sense, or am I just waffling for the sake of waffling? I think I might be doing that, actually. I know what I mean. Oop, that was a bit close to the edge, but never mind. We are nearly there. We're on number 11. Where are we time-wise? 15 minutes. Okay, we should be all right. We should be all right before the camera gets completely bored. For those of you who don't know, my camera turns off after half an hour because it thinks I'm boring its mind to pieces, so it just turns off. And it doesn't seem to matter whether I change the focus or, you know, fiddle with any of the settings or not. It just gets bored after half an hour. And I've got a very, very large SD card in my camera, so it's not that. Because I do actually shoot on a separate camera. Right, so I've got one piece of card that's 4 inches square and a piece of DSP that is 3 7/8 square. And that will be for the lid of our box. So, as I say, the finished dimensions of the box are 4 1/4 square by 3/4 deep. And I chose this because there's a nice definite image on the top. Right, okay, so I know I'm not putting anything there. So I can just pop my patterns down. It doesn't matter which order you put them in, you can just pop them on. And I will use liquid adhesive for this purely because I'm doing card to card, and I'm going to be using probably less than I should, but just for speed, because, you know, there are limits to the amount of times you want to see me pop a piece of card onto a piece of card. Well, you're going to have to see it 13 times, but anywho. So, let's have some chat while I'm doing this. For demonstrators, pre-order started earlier this week. I'm kind of giving up which day it is. Today's Friday, you'll see this. I'm not recording it on Friday. Oh, if you've got a definite up and down, like this, do make sure you've got all of them going in the same direction on both sides. This isn't a definite up and down, so it's less important, but just in case. So yes, we had our pre-order for the new annual catalogue on Tuesday. So that's going to be fun. There are still in Europe some delays on shipping. There was a small, I don't want to make this sound too dramatic. There was a small fire which caused an electrical fault. I don't know if it was an electrical fire that then caused damage to some of the machinery or what, but anyway, there was a small fire. I just want a bit more of a pattern next to an obvious solid. So that obviously caused a bit of a delay with shipping. And then there was a bank holiday, and obviously with the coronavirus still going around, there's health and safety issues, so we can't just hurl staff at it because they've got to stay socially distanced. So yes, there is a bit of a delay, and we've got the retiring list that's gone live and all that good stuff. So things are getting back, but at the moment there is a bit of a delay with shipping, but hopefully it will have sorted itself out sooner rather than later. I will try and keep you updated. If you look at my website, if you go to the landing page of my website, which is oldstablescrafts.co.uk, I've got a slider across the top, and one of the images there will tell you whether the shipping is still delayed. At the moment it does say that we have got some delays, so just bear that in mind. It's going to sort itself out, and frankly, with whatever's going on in the world at the moment, the fact that we've got a little bit of a delay on shipping is probably the least of our problems. I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner, to be honest. When this first hit, the coronavirus, actually deliveries were faster than usual, so it's just caught up a bit. Where are we on the time? 20 minutes! 10 minutes to finish. I think we can do this. We're nearly there. So, yep. Just thinking of which one I'm going to put where. So yes, I will keep that slider image updated with whether shipping is normal or not. At the moment it is a little bit delayed. All the customers who currently have orders in process, I have emailed. I have emailed anyone who used the host code last month to let you know that there's a delay with getting your product gift out. And that's my last page. Yay! So we're getting there, you know. I will keep you up to date. If things are very, very delayed, I will find some way around it as far as customer gifts are concerned. Right, now, it's best to have your book going this way, because otherwise you're getting involved in the lid. So, you want your cut edge to the back of your book, and I would certainly say you want either tear and tape. Sorry, I was off camera. You want either tear and tape or liquid adhesive for this, because this is going to take quite a bit of punishment, because this is all that's going to be holding the book in place whilst you're opening and closing it. So you do want that well stuck down. And whoops, what I'm going to do is just get my, actually the base of my Tombow would be quite good. Sorry, I'm shaking the whole table. And just press that down well. As I say, that is going to take quite a bit of work. Oh, I've just realised what I didn't do. Doesn't matter. What I was intending to do is to include a piece of ribbon, and that should have gone in between the two layers of, or between the layers of DSP, between the layers of card. I forgot. In my rush to get it done, I forgot. I wonder if I can get one of these up or not. Nah, it'll ruin it. But that is where I would put it. Don't make the mistake I made. It doesn't matter. You can still just lift it out. So the only thing we've got to do now is pop the piece onto our lid. So more liquid adhesive. Can't really decide which way up to put that. Never mind. So yes, do remember that the retirement list has still got lots of lovely things on it, some of which are quite heavily reduced. Certainly at the point at which I was recording this, there were the Botanical Prints medley was still available for a ridiculous price of, I think it was £23. It was 60% off. So you got stamp set dies, DSP, ribbon, all sorts for a stupid price. So do have a look for some of those amazing discounts. I am going to just get a circle punch. I happen to have my 1/2" circle punch here, and it's retiring. I'm going to cry. 1/2" circle punch is going. And just make a little thumb hole. It just means it's easier to get your book, or the box for your book open. And there it is. So in 24 minutes, almost from scratch, is a different version of the mini album in a box. So I hope you enjoyed that and found it helpful. It's a great way of, as I say, showcasing designer series paper. So if you're a demonstrator, it's great for showcasing. And it's great for just mini albums. You could make a coronavirus mini album as a record of what you got up to or didn't during the lockdown. So anyway, thank you very much indeed for watching. If you need any products, and remember that all the DSP is going, so if you want any DSP, designer series paper, do have a look at those. Some of them are discounted, some of them are not. But do have a look and fill up on retiring items, particularly in colours, because that's always something that goes early. And if you're in the UK, as I say, please do use the link below. If you would like to subscribe, it's in the bottom right hand corner. And if you've enjoyed this, a thumbs up is always welcome. Thank you very much indeed. Any questions or comments, please leave those below in the area below the description. Thank you very much indeed, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.